Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Paul Kelly. This is a reaction video to the news that there are strong reports that pound for pound star Shakur Stevenson will face Britain's own Welsh's own Joe Cordina for his WBC World Lightweight title. Joe Cordina obviously came up short in his last fight against Anto Kakachi a couple of months ago, whereas Shakur Stevenson still undefeated, still not really dropping rounds as a pro apart from the odd bad performance. Paul, good to be joined by you as always. This isn't confirmed yet. There are just kind of strong reports, so let's not act like it's definitely going to happen. But what's your reaction to the news?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate, as always. It was a bit of a surprise when I saw this, to be fair. But then when you kind of think a little bit more about it, it kind of makes sense. I think Eddie Hearn recently been trying to strike some sort of deal with Shakur Stevenson. So I'm led to believe that if this fight is happening, then is it a one fight deal or something with Shakur? Obviously, ever since he turned pro, Eddie Hearn's been promoting Joe Cordina. So then you kind of look at it and think it makes sense. I think before we get on to the actual fight, I'm glad Joe Cordina is stepping up in weight. If this is to happen, because I think his days at super featherweight were done a year ago. To be quite honest with you, it was quite clear that he was really, really struggling to make 130 pounds at super featherweight. So I'm glad he's gone up to 135. I think those extra £5 will do him the world of good, to be quite honest with you. Especially when you look at his last performance against Anto Kakachi. Obviously, Kakachi put in career best performance, but Cordina again just didn't look like he had anything really, anything that he was landing. On Anto Kakachi just didn't seem to have much of an effect when you compare that to a few fights before when he knocked out Agawa and we thought he's this crazy puncher. All of a sudden, Cordina, I think his days were at 130 were done. So I'm glad from his perspective that he's moving up. Surprised that he's probably getting a shot against someone like Shakur Stevenson straight away. Shakur Stevenson, a lot of people would maybe have him as the number one in the division at lightweight. Definitely top three anyway. Up there with the likes of Tank. Obviously, Lomachenko's still up there, a few others. But yeah, I'm glad to see Cordina moving up. It'd be good to have Shakur Stevenson on. Obviously, it's not a UK show, but one of these Saudi shows that there's a lot of UK eyeballs on it as well as American and all around the world. I think, Shakur Stevenson, I think, in my opinion, needs something like that because I think he's kind of flattered to deceive sometimes. As good as he is, he hasn't, he's not a fighter that everyone wants to tune in and see, like maybe a Tank Davis is. People say it could be a little bit boring, but yeah, it surprised me at first, mate, but the more I think about it, it makes sense. And yeah, fingers crossed it actually gets over the line for October 12th.
Yeah, you mentioned Cordina in terms of it's kind of his time at super featherweight, and I'd have to agree. I thought the Edward Vasquez performance, I thought he won the fight personally, but just it wasn't a great performance. And then was the time to move up. That was his first defense of his world title, winning the world title again, obviously against Rakhimov. And I think then was the time to move up. And I know it's easy to say that now, but then when you look how he looked at the weigh-in against Kakachi and then the performance, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same Joe Cordina. But it's one of these things that happens in boxing. Fighters sometimes stay too long at certain weights. I've got a couple of questions for you, Paul. If I were to say to you that I think Joe Cordina's career could possibly pass him by and he might not live up to his full potential, what would you say? He's going to be nearly 33 by the time this fight happens. And it feels like he has spent a lot of time being inactive. He's had some injuries. He had that period when he kind of lost his world title without losing a fight and then won it back. And he's not been in a massive fight yet, if we're being honest. He's headlined back home in Wales, which I'm sure has been fantastic for him. He's been on some massive Anthony Joshua undercards, but this Shakur Stevenson is his first big fight at the age of nearly 33. So what would you make of those comments if I was to say that to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of look at it in a few ways. Career passing him by. I suppose you could say that in terms of name value of opponents. Yes, definitely. I can see where you're coming from there. But then again, he can always say that he's been a world champion, a two-time world champion, so to speak. So in that sense, it kind of depends, I suppose. what way you're looking at it from when he turned over. Obviously, a lot of hype, being an Olympian and all that, and he did live up to his potential. And he won a few belts, British and all of that, and then winning the world. But yeah, mate, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I do have to agree in terms of name value and kind of the big fights he's been in. Yeah, he's been in a few world title fights, but those names that he was up against, were they household names? Really? No. Like yeah, even last time when he was fighting in Saudi against Kakachi, like Kakachi, as good as he is and won the belt, he's not a name, let's be honest. Um Maybe he is over where I live in Belfast, but apart from that, he really isn't. So yeah, I'm glad that I'm almost glad he's getting a massive name here, Cordina, if it's to happen. Um, but at the same time, I'm thinking it's a pretty tough fight for you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just on the other side of the ring, there's Shakur Stevenson. I'm a massive fan of Shakur Stevenson. Any kind of positive way you want to describe him, I'm all here for it. I think he's a future pound for pound star, generational great, however you want to describe him. However, 22 fights in now, and he's been obviously, look, three weight world champion, which is a fantastic achievement. However, he's maybe not. He's just not been in with those household names you would maybe expect him to be within by now at the age of 27. Obviously, we hope this Gervonta Davis fight's going to happen. Lomachenko fight could happen. Zepeda is a tough fighter who there have been rumors about Stevenson facing, but it looks like he's going to face Cordina instead. Stevenson so far, for me, the standout victory is against Oscar Valdez, which was he was still quite young when that fight happened, and he took that Valdez to school. If we're being honest, Constance is another opponent, and then yeah, he's had a couple of iffy performances in the last couple of years when he's not been his best. Is Joe Cordina the best opponent the best opponent that Shakur Stevenson would have faced in your opinion, Paul?
Don't know. I don't know about that. Don't want to offend any staunch Welsh fans, but I don't think so. I think I would have, as you mentioned, Oscar Valdez probably a bit up there. Skill wise, Joe Cordina is brilliant. He really is. He's a skillful fighter, but I don't know if I would have him top of Shakur Stevenson's opponent list. I mean, yeah, well, I suppose he'd be up. He'd definitely be in the top five, maybe the top three, I think. But I'm not going to put him at number one. I do think Valdez is a good opponent. Conceição, I mean, if you put Conceição against Joe Cordina, who would you favour to win that? I suppose, would get some Cordina backers there, but you'd get a lot of Conceição backers as well. I think he's definitely up there, but it's funny, mate. We're kind of talking about these two fighters, and oh, yeah, one's a three-weight world champion, one's a one-weight world champion, but two-time world champion, and there's no massive name that stands out on the resume. If Joe Cordina was to beat Shakur Stevenson, that's a name that stands out in the resume. But if you're Shakur
Yeah.
Stevenson and in the US, does Joe Cordina stand out? Probably still need a big name like the Gervonta Davis, the Lomachenko, Devin Haney, Zepeda. That's the kind of name I think American fight fans are wanting Shakur Stevenson to have anyway. But yeah, I think Cordina would definitely be up there as one of the toughest fights of Shakur Stevenson's career, but in terms of name value, again, probably not what you'd be looking for as a Stevenson fan.
We shall see. We shall see. I feel like I've interrogated you enough, Paul. Obviously, it's fairly early on a Tuesday morning. So before I let you go, tell me what you think is going to happen here. Look, we all know who's going to be the favourite. Shakur Stevenson is the one who's still undefeated, seen as possibly kind of could be the next big American star in the sport. Could go on and have some real mega fights, not just against Gervonta Davis, but against the likes of Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez at 140. Whereas Joe Cordina now, look, let's not forget he's a fantastic talent. And before the Kakachi fight, he was kind of being spoken about as really one, possibly the best that Britain has to offer. What do you think is going to happen on October the 12th?
I cannot sit here and say anything other than the Shakur Stevenson victory, mate, as much as I would maybe want, from the British standpoint for Joe Cordina to win. I just think Shakur Stevenson is class. He's elite. I agree with what you said. Could go down as a generational great in years to come. And when he's all said and done in his career, I think he's just so good. I don't
Mm.
know whether he's And maybe yeah, do you know what I'm gonna say? He's gonna stop Cordina, which maybe come as a surprise because Stevenson can coast to point victories quite a lot, as we have seen in really one-sided kind of beatdowns. But I'm gonna go for the stoppage. I think maybe that the Cordina staying so long at 130 won't have done his chin any favors, and getting stopped last time out. So that would be a damaging one if he was to lose back-to-back fights, potentially both by stoppage. But yeah, as much as I do want to sit here and say Cordina, I'm going to have to go with Shakur Stevenson. And I'm going to go to a late stoppage, mid to late stoppage. What about you?
Um, I'll probably go for Stevenson on points. I just think that there's question marks for me over Cordina. How is he going to react to the first defeat of his career? Um, yeah, it's not. I don't think. Look, you can't blame Cordina for taking the fight, but I don't think it is ideal for him to lose to Ento Kakachi in a fight he was expected to win, and then go straight into a fight against Shakur Stevenson. However, I'm happy for Cordina because he has wanted this sort of fight for a long time. He's been desperate for a big fight, and this is look fair play to his team, fair play to Eddie Hearn. They've finally got him this massive fight against a massive name. So I'm happy for him, and I hope he does it. I really hope he does it. It's one to really look forward to. Obviously, Bivol Beterbiev, arguably the fight of the year. Dependent, there's a different conversation itself, and we've got a good undercard fight here, and we'll see what else happens on the night. Paul, thank you for joining me. We'll speak to you soon, and yeah, all the best.
Cheers, mate. All the best.